Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted, as ever, to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
I'm all right, Dan. I'm all right. Just the two of us tonight.
Just the two of us. I mean, look, some people are saying this is the dream team. This is the cream of the crop. It's not for me to say.
Stripping it back to the core.
Exactly. Back to basics. How's things? Good?
Aye, all right. We've got a lot of boys on manoeuvres, haven't we? European matches this week, so stretched in. But yeah, I think we've got a lot to get into, Dan, because it's funny. Usually this time, start of a European group campaign, whether it's Europa League, Champions League, there's excitement, there's a lot of electricity about it, a lot of anticipation. Feels very weird this year, doesn't it? This just feels so flat, and you're wondering what it is you're gonna be looking at when these games get up and running. Celtic obviously Belgrade on Wednesday night, Rangers at home to Genk on Thursday, and by all accounts, I think Rangers are really struggling to shift tickets. I don't think they can give them away for this game. Potentially, could be looking at a crowd, I don't know, low 30s at Ibrox for a game of this magnitude. It's
for an opening European game,
and it's Thursday night at Ibrox. You know that's the Rangers supporters have really taken to Thursday nights under the lights at Ibrox in the Europa League. Not this time, it would seem, unless there's going to be a late rush. But certainly, it seems that you can buy as many tickets as you want for any part of the ground, basically, this late in the day. So, yeah, strange times these at both Rangers and Celtic. And you just wonder if maybe, once the ball starts rolling in European competition, fans might re-engage with it a little bit. I know the Celtic fans don't really particularly want to be in the Europa League, but they'll need to make do with it this season. And the Rangers fans, I think, are happy to be in the Europa League, just not under the management that's currently taking them there.
Yeah.
But as I said, once the ball starts rolling, if either of them or both hopefully can pick up some momentum and some victories, maybe the excitement will start to come back to it. Maybe people will realise this is a competition that's worthwhile after all.
Yeah. The comments are coming in already. If you want to get involved, please do so. We'll try and read them out. Rangers Easy OK, Keith says it's been priced shockingly, Keith. £43 per game for season ticket holders. Even if we were flying, it's shocking when the only glamour tie is Roma. And our old pal Gianni says, Keith and myself will be at the Roma games at both stadiums.
That's not the first time he said that. I think he's taken me away. He's been taking me away for a romantic break.
But I think Rangers Easy OK's point is very valid.
It is valid.
£43 for a season ticket holder. That's
it is valid. But Andrew Kavanagh, he kind of caught the bug coming over for these big European games, didn't he? Last season, when he was putting the takeover together, he saw a full stadium. He saw a support that was engaged and behind Barry Ferguson's team latterly in that competition. And he's probably thought, oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is they can charge premium prices for this because they'd be queuing out the door to get in. But it's interesting. I think Andrew Kavanagh's still got his boots on the ground, if not in Glasgow, then certainly in central Scotland. I think that he's going to be at the game against Genk, and he'll get another chance to kind of take the temperature of a support, which I was going to say for the Hibs game, place was half full, and the only people that had turned up to boo the manager. That's the environment Rangers are in right now. It's a pretty toxic one, but the only way for Russell Martin and his team to dig themselves out of it is to win games of football. They got a result of the weekend. I don't think they were anywhere near as impressive as the manager made out afterwards. But they got the result, and really that was all that really mattered at the weekend, was to try and arrest the decline, stop the rot, and sort of give yourself a platform to build on. Well, he got that. The question is, can they follow up? Because I tell you what, the whole picture around Russell Martin, and I think he's toast. because I don't know how you win the supporters back from the position that he's in. And I have no faith in the tactics and the formation and the style of play that Rangers are trying to implement right now. That you see nothing there that makes you think they are capable of going on a run. They've just been a little bit unlucky. They've not really been unlucky. They've been dreadful. I don't think they were great against Hibs, but Nico Raskin was the difference maker. But it got him. It got him the result that he really needed. Follow that up with a win over Genk, then go to Livingston and win, and all of a sudden you just might get a bit of breathing space.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that's going to work here for Rangers. It is win and win consistently, and then you might slowly start to win back some of the hearts and minds. But even then, it's a real long shot.
Again, it's completely hypothetical, but if they'd lost to Hibs on Saturday, do you think he would have been officially out the door?
Well, this is a difficult thing. I wrote a column today, Dan, about this really. And what's difficult to gauge or to predict is we don't know what makes Andrew Kavanagh tick yet as an owner.
Well, just on that case, sorry to jump in, but on your column, I was reading it earlier, and if you're a Rangers fan, it's prescribed reading. Andrew Kavanagh might not have been around long enough to know he's been sold a pup, but the supporters sure have.
Yeah. And so Andrew Kavanagh, every day's a school day right now. He's got to learn a lot and he's got to learn quick. And I'm going to come back to it. I've said it for how many months? I said it from the start. It'll get worse before it gets better, because these people will have to acclimatise themselves, familiarise themselves with the environment, with the football club, with the demands. It's not as easy as they probably had hoped that it might be. But that, for me, was always likely to be the case. And I think they've made mistakes, and quite a few of them thus far. But the question is, we've got nothing to kind of, no metric on which to base what Andrew Kavanagh's behaviour is likely to be like in a situation like this. So I would have thought, Russell Martin's position, I've already said it. I don't know. I think he's walking the green mile. I don't think there's really a way, a realistic way back for him. But what's interesting, I actually felt the protests against him were real. That was some rough stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the words that were being tossed around, the venom. I mean, it was beyond toxic. So what makes Andrew Kavanagh tick? Is he a guy with a business empire? Does he pride himself on having a duty of care for his employees? If so, then perhaps he'll be minded to, almost double down against those sort of protests and protect the guy as his employee. He might still be actually convinced that Russell Martin can do exactly what he requires him to do as a head coach. I would think that sort of set of beliefs would have to have been shaken pretty badly over the first few weeks of the season. If he still believes that, then good luck to him. But in terms of how he deals with Russell Martin and this situation on a purely human level, that's going to be interesting. And you wonder, and I've seen it done. I have seen it done where, it wasn't that long ago when the Celtic fans were protesting what Neil Lennon sacked, and Dermot Desmond just dug his heels in and said, I'm not going to be dictated to by a support behaving like this in full-scale rebellion. And so sometimes they go, it has the opposite effect from the one the fans are trying to achieve. The owner can go a different way. Now, we don't know enough about Andrew Kavanagh yet to say with any certainty how he's likely to respond in a situation like this. He could go one of two ways, obviously. I would have thought if he was going to give the supporters Russell Martin's head in a plate, he would have done that. And he would have done that when he got off the plane, maybe even ahead of the weekend game. I feel that there's no rush to give in to the supporters, if you want. And so I think Andrew Kavanagh's probably sitting there, fingers crossed, hoping there's a bit of a bounce. Rangers get a result against Genk, and he can go back to Philadelphia and leave the noise behind him for a while. if it goes badly against the Belgians. And by the way, this is a Belgian side. Where are they sitting? Third bottom of the Belgian league right now.
Third bottom, aye.
It's hardly a popcorn match, is it? But yeah, it's so fascinating that it could be. Rangers get a win, get this kind of elongated group stage off to the best possible start, and maybe they do start to get a bit of momentum, and maybe Russell Martin comes back from, I think he's beyond the brink, which would be quite incredible in itself. But as I said, in order to believe that that's possible, you need to have seen enough evidence on the pitch with your own eyes to think, yeah, they're going places. And Russell Martin came out after the game at the weekend and talked about how that looked like the Rangers performance that he wants to see, and uses these sort of buzzwords and catchphrases. He's kidding himself on with that one. But he won't. There's no washing with the supporters. The supporters know what they watched. It was better. It was a slight improvement on what they've been watching, but it wasn't great. It was nowhere near it. It was nowhere near the sort of level of performance you expect to see from a Rangers side at home in a cup quarter final. It was nowhere near it. And if thinking back to that game, if Raskin gets the opening goal shortly before half time with a header, up until that point, I don't think the Hibs keeper had been tested. So if that's what a Rangers performance under Russell Martin, if that's one that he likes the look of and wants it to look like, no wonder there's a disconnect with the supporters, because the supporters are watching that thinking it's nowhere near the level that it should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, so much going on, and you look at even his team selection and the tactics. Daniel, we kind of spoke about this. You're waiting for the wrappers to come off Russell Martin's Rangers to see, right? He's got his philosophies and beliefs on how he wants the game to be played. He's really set them in stone. He was prepared to die in that hill as a Southampton manager. What's it going to look like? And the first game, really, when you start to collate any sort of evidence, was Panathinaikos at Ibrox in the qualifiers. What he's doing with this team just now isn't even remotely close to what he was trying to do that night, in terms of where the fullbacks were going. He'd Nico Raskin coming out of the central position to make room for Max Aarons to go in. And it looked a mess. And in subsequent games following that, it's looked equally messy, but just without that sort of a clear. You could see what it was that he was trying. It wasn't working, but you could see what. I don't look at the performance against Hibs and see any similarities to that, apart from the fact it wasn't very good, but it wasn't. Do you know what I mean by that?
Of course,
the philosophy and this style of play that he kind of wants to his team to execute. I didn't see any signs of it. In fact, if anything, it looked like a kind of throwback a little bit, because Raskin was playing in exactly the areas of the pitch that he wants to play in, where he can really affect a game, and was the best player on the park by a country mile. Diomande was his partner. That goes back to last season. More of that set up, as opposed to, at the start of all this, you've got Joe Rothwell playing as the six. You've got Raskin, whoever else further up the field, and it was Diomande actually as well, but they were going really wide. That these patterns of play aren't there anymore.
No.
But what happened at the weekend? Nico Raskin went and played centre mid, and he won the game almost single-handedly. John Souttar, does he fancy John Souttar? I'm not sure that I'm not sure if he was a John Souttar fan when he was coming in, and he was buying. He bought if you remember, there was a heavy recruitment emphasis on centre halves, but John Souttar remains a first pick. He didn't want James Tavernier on his team. He kind of took him out of the team. Max Aarons played left to start with, then played right. The captain was relegated to the bench. Well, James Tavernier's now back in the team. Jack Butland, there was a lot of noises that he wanted a goalkeeper brought in over the summer who was better at distributing the ball with his feet. So did he fancy Butland? Butland's now a linchpin. Diomande and Raskin, the midfield too. Well, despite all the arrivals, they remain the key components in the centre of the pitch. So it's almost as if he's come in with this big plan, and bit by bit, chip by chip, it's getting less, and it's reverting more to to what Rangers looked like last season. And that wasn't particularly great, but it was better than whatever it was that Russell Martin was putting out at the start of this season. So, yeah, I actually think he's struggling a bit in terms of his own philosophy and his own demands and his own sort of vision for the way that he wants Rangers to play. I almost feel as if that's getting left in the ditch somewhere, and it's just out of a basic, pure necessity to try and get a win on the board. He's got a win on the board at the weekend. He really could do with another couple to follow that up now.
We've got plenty of really good comments coming in on this. If you want to get involved in the discussion, please do so. Before I actually come to the comments on Russell Martin, Keith, I mean, some of these are... Scott says £49 to £54 for general sale. Genk are third bottom in their league. I mean, that £54. And points out Champions League ticket prices for the Europa League. I mean, that seems mad to me. £54 general sale.
As I said, as a businessman, he's probably looked at it last season, and you couldn't swing a cat in the place, and he's probably just as you probably would. You'd walk in and go, well, they're crazy for this Europa League here, so we can put the prices up a little bit. Now that is steep in anybody's language. That's steep.
Yeah.
And coupled with the way that the recruitment process of the manager and of some of the players. That's all gone a little bit wonky. It's no wonder the Rangers fans are saying, "Nah, you can forget that." So potentially you're looking at, I don't know, probably somewhere between 24,000 to 15,000 empty seats. Something like it could be anywhere in that region. But I think there's also quite a lot of, because these tickets go on sale and it's different. It's not season ticket holders, the whole stadium. You can get people that wouldn't ordinarily go to the games on a week in, week out basis. They seem to catch the bug for European football on a Thursday night. So maybe Rangers will have a late rush of some sort. But right now it's not looking particularly positive for them. And yes, there's no doubt that these prices are part of the problem there.
Yeah. On Russell Martin, Rangers Is He OK says he's got to get 4 wins from now to the international break to have any chance of being here for the medium term. Thought we were okay Saturday, but that's because our performances have been dung. Singing the Blues simply says, well, there's mass opinion. Surely the owner listens. Bartholomew says Russell Martin is safe until Friday. James says, when we do get rid of Martin, we should immediately snap up Jens Beryl Askew, the Motherwell manager. He's doing on a budget what Martin promised.
That's true.
Yep. And
I'm not sure he's the right appointment for Rangers, but in terms of a new manager bringing a new style, a very progressive sort of approach, passing game, it is pretty much everything that Russell Martin said was in the brochure.
Yeah.
It's been delivered, but it's been delivered at Motherwell, not at Ibrox.
Yeah. Just to finish off in these comments, Bartholomew says the problem at Ibrox is not the manager or the board, but a fan base that expects to win the league when Stevie Wonder can see they're miles off Celtic in terms of consistency. But John, in the comments, goes against your opinion on the game at the weekend, Keith. He says it was a great performance all round against Hibs. Possession more accurate, movement from the back to the front as it should be. Good off the ball working, more desire. Can see the confidence in all the team growing throughout 90 minutes. Now we see a shape and formation to the team.
Wow. Okay.
It's a very positive outlook from John.
Yeah, well, a great performance. No, I'm sorry. That's too much like happy clapping that. It was anything but a great performance. It was a mediocre Rangers performance. And I think the reason, two main reasons for the win. One, Raskin, absolutely outstanding. 2, Hibs were rubbish.
Yeah.
Hibs didn't turn up.
Didn't turn up.
And I think I said in last night's show, it's almost as if they had more of a problem with a sort of surreal atmosphere inside the ground than the Rangers players did. And they just look, they were just miles off it. And Hibs haven't had a brilliant start to the season results wise. And they looked like a team that was pretty short in confidence, but they also seemed to get caught up in whatever that occasion was. It seemed to impact them negatively, and they were nowhere near the sort of Hibs side that I expected to see. I thought they'd be all guns blazing. And maybe, goals change matches if if Martin Boyle's goal stands in the 15th minute, it could have been a very different set of circumstances at Ibrox at the weekend. VAR was right to intervene and chop it off, of course. But if it hadn't been spotted the same way as Lawrence Shankland's wasn't spotted the previous week, that could have gone a very different way.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd have Rangers fans on seeing that was a great performance. It was nowhere near. And if your standards have dropped that low, that you look upon that as a great Rangers performance, then it could be part of the problem rather than part of the solution, I'm afraid.
Away from Rangers, Keith, a little bit of Scotland news. Scott McTominay has officially been crowned the 18th best player in the world, 18th in the Ballon d'Or. That I've got to say, like, I think he's been amazing for Napoli, but that is a lot higher than I thought he'd be.
Yeah, but maybe that's because you might be underestimating.
I know, undeservedly. Sorry.
Italian football and the sort of status that it still has, even though Serie A's seen better days. He was a major contributor to that title win. I think he scored 13 goals, 6 assists along the way. Just a brilliant impact that he had in Napoli. And I'm thrilled for him. But I mean, he's up in the ranking there. I think he's above Virgil van Dijk's and
above Van Dijk, above Haaland, above
Haaland, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham.
Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham. He's above some of the best players in the continent.
So that's superb. And also I think what he's done at international level with Scotland as well, the impact that he's made there, scoring goals, looking like a big stage performer. So I'm really, really thrilled for Scott McTominay because it's been a while since any Scottish player was given that sort of respect level across the European game. Now, I'm not a big one for the Ballon d'Or. I think it's cranked up into something that's more important than it actually is. And I don't know how you're supposed to, say, categorise who slots in at 17th and who's 24th and all. I'm not sure there's an accurate metric for how you judge all that stuff. But obviously, it's a big deal in terms of who's sort of acclaimed to be the best player in the world. So when the trophy's handed out, and it's either going to be Lamine Yamal or Dembele at PSG, isn't it? I think they're the two obvious front runners for it.
Who would you have, Keith? Who would you give it to?
I'd go Yamal. I'd go Lamine Yamal.
Wow.
I think the impact he's made, his story was ridiculous. The age he burst onto the scene at the Euros. He was basically a school kid, and he was, kicking off in matches when he should have been in his bed. Really, at that point in his career, just came from nowhere and lit the thing up. And he's gone on, I think, to improve, become a regular first team. He's an absolute stick on in the Barcelona first 11. So for me, I think he's the most exciting player, and he's the one that when you look at all the other candidates or contenders, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo set such a high bar for everybody else, and you think, well, greatest of all time, nobody's ever going to match this. Well, then you look at Lamine Yamal and you think, well, you might have a chance, son. You might have a chance, because what he's doing at such an early age is absolutely astonishing. He's ripping trees up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're on Scotland stuff, Keith. Mark points out Ollie Burke, the first Scottish player to hit a Bundesliga hat trick.
Somebody was going to say that.
Listen, we need to adhere to the fans. Let's answer the question. Ollie Burke, he's not played for Scotland in 5 years.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, he's still only 28.
I know, I'm being unkind, aren't I? But look, do you know what I'll say? As I saw his finishes at the weekend, I saw his 3 finishes, and they were excellent. And I had to do a double take just to make sure it was Ollie Burke I was watching. I mean, he's always been blessed. When I remember when he first came through, and it was £15 million, Nottingham Forest, and you're thinking, oh wow, we've got one here. You're kind of hoping, is this our answer to Gareth Bale? Ollie Burke had all the physique. He's got the running power. He's absolutely rapid. He's powerful. But he just couldn't play football. So I was surprised by the standard of his finishing at the weekend, and maybe he has developed. Maybe he's worked on. He had a lot to work on, and maybe he's done it. Maybe he's improved himself. Maybe we should be taking a look at him for the national side, because it's quite an achievement scoring hat-tricks in the Bundesliga. If I was Steve Clarke, I'd think, do you know what? I did forget. I've kind of written him off. Might be worth going and have a look. Have a look at a couple of games and just see, has he really improved to that extent that he's now worthy of a return to the Scottish national squad? If he has, and if he's put in the hard work and he's improved his overall game, his touch, his pretty much everything. They need to be the full package, Wally. And if he's improved at all, then good luck to him, because that would have required a lot of hard work. So, but yeah, I'm just getting flashbacks to the Ollie Burke that we saw with our own eyes, and he had a lot of issues to sort out, didn't he, with his game, if he was ever really going to look like delivering on that early promise.
Absolutely. In the comments, Daz says maybe we should have a Scottish version of the Ballon d'Or. It's my ball awards. Marzuno points out the only problem with Ollie Burke is that he can't control the ball, which I mean is quite a big stumbling block, I would suggest.
Well, Marzuno's obviously kind of got a similar view to my own on that. But as I said, the way that he took his goals at the weekend surprised me. So maybe as I said, maybe he's put the work in. And if he has put the work in and he's improved himself, then good luck to him. He deserves all he gets.
Mark points out that Burke hasn't got much to beat. I mean, striker is the one of the areas that really we're lacking a wee bit in Scotland. I know Che Adams, really good player.
So it kind of tells you that even though that has been the problem area for us, that Ollie Burke had fallen away out the picture.
That's a good point.
And couldn't stake a place, and it was really hard to make an argument for why he would be anywhere near it. But again, as I said, if he has improved now, he might have just had an absolute world day at the weekend, or maybe he has made big improvements to his game. That's something that if you're the national boss of Scotland, you need to go and investigate. You can't look at 3 goals and say, all right, bring him in. But I would be wanting to have a reassessment of him and say, well, how much has this lad improved? Because as you said, he's 28. He's coming into his prime. So if he has improved by that sort of level, then it probably is something that Scotland should be looking at. It wouldn't surprise me if Steve Clarke does go and have a look, or sends somebody to do that on his behalf, and reaches the conclusion that was reached some time ago.
Yeah, I guess time will tell.
Fingers crossed. I hope not.
No. Ian in the comments says, why are we not giving stick to Aberdeen and Hibs? And that brings me, Keith, to Aberdeen. I don't even know where to start with Aberdeen. 11 wins in the last 40 games under Jimmy Thelin. Obviously, another defeat at the weekend. Rock bottom in the league. This was supposed to be the season with the Scottish Cup, and this was going to be the season where they really kicked on. But to say it's not happened is an understatement.
Do you know something? We sat in here, Daniel, at the start of the season, so wouldn't it be brilliant? Aberdeen are coming off the back of that win at Hampden. They should have some, momentum right from the start of the campaign, feel-good factor. And what we were looking for is Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hearts and Hibs all to punch their weight, and to be really competitive and make themselves, deliver on their potential, which is they should all be top 6 sides, and they should all be, throwing punches at one another throughout the course of the campaign. Aberdeen are just, I mentioned a few weeks ago that I'd heard that there's a bit of unrest. I'm not sure that the dressing room is a particularly great environment right now. That suggests that the players are struggling with what they're being asked to do by the manager, not enjoying it. And you can see that in results. And it has to, I'm afraid with this one, and Dave Cormack might disagree, because he's got his own views on just about everything, particularly his own sort of manager, and quite rightly so. But I'm telling you, with the quality that they've got in that squad now, and it's a deep squad, and it's dripping with good players, and you're still getting results like this, then I'm afraid the common denominator is the guy that's picking the starting 11 and the guy that's determining the tactics. And I think that it's just not happening for Jimmy Thelin. I understand there's obviously a lot of goodwill because of the winning the Scottish Cup last season for the first time in so long. Obviously, the fans will have enjoyed that, but they know they're not daft either. They know what they're watching here. This is a side that's in serious decline. And if, by the way, if you make a change quickly, you've got so many good players there. You've got a real opportunity.
When they put out their squad on social media at the weekend, I always think, bloody hell, that's a good team. That's a really good team.
They've got a real proper squad, and you know where you have to credit Dave Cormack is, you know, he's throwing the kitchen sink at it here, in an effort to because he sees, I think, the avenue into group stages of European football. He's got that. It's not at the level he would have wanted, but he's got it anyway. So in recognition of that, he was able to go and help the manager get tooled up for a campaign which is going to require, you know, domestic, a fight in the domestic front and a fight in the European front, in the Conference League. And you can't say he's not been backed. He's certainly been backed. But I honestly, I look at it and I think to myself, what an opportunity. If they did make the change and they brought in the right guy, then he's got a great squad and a real chance to turn that around. You also look at it in Aberdeen now. This run can't go on, you know, without end. At some point, they're going to get a win. You just wonder if they get a win tomorrow night at Tannadice against Dundee United, which you would say is probably a long shot. But then again, I refer back to what I said about the quality, the players that are in that squad. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that Aberdeen go and win that game. Then they go to, I think, Motherwell at the weekend on Saturday. And if they could get a point there, or reverse it, 1 point at Tannadice and 3 at Motherwell, whatever way they get it, if they can get 4 points from these 2 games, they leapfrog Rangers. And by the time Rangers go to kick off at Livingston on the Sunday, they're actually bottom place in the league, 12 from 12, which would be staggering. And could you imagine, we've talked a little bit about Rangers, I know, and the sort of bad atmosphere around the place. Livingston away, it is so tight, the ground. Everybody's so close, it's so compact. There'll be a lot of Rangers fans there usually is anyway. Could you imagine the atmosphere inside that place before kickoff if Rangers are actually sitting 12th in the SPFL table?
It feels weird to even say that. It sounds mental.
I mean, honestly, if you were to kind of conjure in your mind, how could circumstances get any, I'm not sure it can get any worse than Livingston away, plastic pitch, that tight stadium, just Rangers fans everywhere you can see, and fury everywhere you can see. Because even if they get a win on Thursday night, if they go into Livingston bottom of the table, what do you think the atmosphere is going to be like around that match?
Toxic doesn't even do it justice.
No.
I mean, it'd be crazy. I'll go back to the comments. One last visit to the comments before we wrap up. This one here, Singing the Blues, says Aberdeen of Rangers soon. They'll be Barca again for 90 minutes. Marzuno says, how's Thelin still got a job? Some of their performances have been shocking. And similarly, Scott says, Thelin really lucky to be in a job. And just going back to the fixtures you mentioned there, Keith, obviously tough ones against Dundee United, Motherwell away. After that, Shakhtar Donetsk in the Conference League. I mean, that's going to be really, really difficult for Thelin to get much out of any of the games, I would suggest.
Well, how's your luck? You get a Champions League side in the Conference League.
I know.
Now, obviously, you know, Shakhtar Donetsk aren't the Shakhtar Donetsk of maybe 4 or 5 years ago or longer, but that's a difficult, horrible tie. And you know, I just listen. I'm with some of the comments there. The Jimmy Thelin thing. I really thought when you saw the impact it had this time 12 months ago, Aberdeen absolutely flying. I think it was 33 points from the first 12 games.
12 games or something now.
Yeah. 31 points from 33, I think it was.
He dropped 2,
and the 2 drop points were at Celtic Park.
Yep.
They drew at Celtic Park. So at that point in time, you could feel this thing building. The Aberdeen fans were beside themselves, and no wonder. Brilliant travelling support. You really felt that something was growing up there, and then it just fell off a cliff. Now, they managed to recover, or he managed to recover. He threw out his system and his tactics and his strategy and his philosophy for the cup final, and he got a win. Celtic failed to turn up for their work that day. Aberdeen won the cup, and you kind of get the feeling now that might have been a perfect mic drop moment for Jimmy Thelin, because Jimmy's toiling, and it shows no sign of getting any better anytime soon. And I've just said all that, and would it be the biggest surprise in the world if they somehow stopped the rot and managed to get 4 points from these two games and flipped over Rangers at the bottom of the league? It really wouldn't. Nothing would surprise you. This feels like the season for madness, and I know they generally are, but there's even by our standards, there's something a bit crazy in there.
No, I completely agree. Just to finish off in Aberdeen, 20 defeats in the last 40 games, pretty mad. Do you think your gut feeling, Keith, will he still be Aberdeen manager after the next international break?
Well, it's like I said about trying to predict what Andrew Kavanagh does at Rangers. Dave Cormack's a difficult guy to predict, and he is prone to accidents along the way. He seemed in a really bizarre rush to want to get Derek McInnes out the door when he kind of took over complete ownership at Aberdeen. I think there was an element of trying to be a people pleaser and pandering to the support. And it's the old one you always say in situations like that: be careful what you wish for. The Aberdeen fans wanted a change for whatever reason. They kind of lost a really competent, talented manager, and have not recovered from it. And yes, Jimmy Thelin can point to a bit of silverware in the cabinet, and rightly so. That's a hell of an achievement for Aberdeen. But I think now, if you were to go back and ask these Aberdeen fans, I don't know, they probably wouldn't swap it because of that Scottish Cup. But look at the state of their team, from where they were and how competitive they were at the top end of the league to this sitting bottom. Can't win games, can't score goals. They're a dreadful mess. So put the kettle on for a win at Tannadice tomorrow.
You can take that to the bank after we've said all this. And very last thing here, I know I say it all the time, and then I run through it about four other things, but we haven't really mentioned that much about Celtic. But Davey is one of a few people in the comments saying the Europa League should be a competition we're all buzzing for and keen to go far in, but the mood is the complete opposite. And I just want to bring it up because, look, you mentioned earlier, obviously Celtic don't want to be in the Europa League. I'm sure their fans don't. But I remember thinking they will have looked at Rangers the last couple of years. What was it, quarter-final last year, the final in 2022. Mm-hmm. And they must have thought, well, look, if they can do that, surely we can go far.
They would never admit to being envious of it.
Well, aye. I mean...
But they were.
Aye, exactly.
In the same way as Rangers were when Celtic made that run to Seville. And, look... It's happening. It's in your own backyard, and you're seeing full stadiums and electric atmospheres, and massive celebration. I know that Celtic fans had no real appetite for this competition, but that's what I said at the start of the show. Dan, once the ball starts rolling, and unfortunately there is this ongoing. So it's not even a power struggle, really. It's an open revolt against the board, and so. For that reason, a point of principle, Celtic fans don't want to spend money on tickets for the stadium. And I get it, but where are we going to be if I could just fast forward six months down the line? If Celtic have a successful group campaign to get into the knockout stages, and it started to look like the last 8, the last 4, a final, you tell me that you're still going to get 20,000 Celtic fans coming up shrugging their shoulders for it?
No chance.
They'll be going crazy for it, and rightly so. It's a European competition. So my hope would be for Celtic is that once the ball starts rolling in this competition, if they can get some early traction, do you know what? Wouldn't it be great if they could start off with a win away in Belgrade, and just to really throw down the gauntlet and put a marker down in this group stage competition? I'm always a great believer if you can get a point on the road and win your home games, you're going to be more than fine. But yeah, I mean, if Celtic have aspirations to be in a higher league, to be in the Champions League and not in the Europa League, well then attack this group like you're a Champions League outfit. You might not like it, but show what you are. So, you know, go away to Belgrade, get a win. 3 points to bag back. All of a sudden, you know, if you can follow that up with another one, all of a sudden people will start buying into this. They might not like the board. We understand all the reasons behind all that, but they do enjoy watching their team.
Support the team, aye.
And if Celtic could make some proper headway in this competition, the Celtic fans will be all over it. Don't you worry about that.
And we will be talking more about Celtic and their match in Belgrade on tomorrow night's Hotline Live. But for tonight, I think that brings us to the end.
We should be joined from over there by who's Gannon Tours?
I think Ryan McDonald's certainly over there, and I think Michael Gannon as well, but I want to check on that.
I think Gannon Tours is there, yeah.
Gannon Tours. We will hopefully get the guys on from Belgrade to get their perspective as well. But for tonight, I think that brings us to the end. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
And you, Dan.
And thank you very much for all the comments as ever. We massively appreciate it. And we hope you can join us at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks for watching.